This one kind of came out of nowhere when we first heard about it, but at the same time, it actually makes a lot of sense when you start thinking about it. We might be getting a brand new God of War game, and Kratos is not the main character. Instead, everything we're hearing right now points toward a spinoff centered around Faye, Kratos' wife, the one character that we barely saw, but somehow she's the reason everything in the Norse saga even happened in the first place. She's the most important character, and if it turns out to be real, this might actually be one of the smartest moves Santa Monica Studio has made with the franchise in a long time, because if you step back, God of War Ragnarok pretty much wrapped up the Norse storyline. Not completely, but enough where you can feel like they're ready to move on. The game closed the major arcs, it gave Kratos a different direction, and more importantly, it proved the series doesn't have to stay locked into one mythology forever. They already made the jump from Greek to Norse, and now the question becomes, where are they jumping next? And instead of just throwing Kratos into another mythology right away, it looks like they may be taking a different route. They're going to expand the universe before we ever get to the true God of War 6. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. Today, we're talking about the God of War Faye spinoff, and we have brand new details, a possible reveal right around the corner, so we're going to cover everything. Remember, I read every single comment on every single video, so chime in. Now, before we go too far, none of this is officially confirmed, but the reports that are out there, they are lining up in a very, very interesting way. All the big points right now are talking about this would be a spinoff starring Faye and Tyr. Tyr would play a major role. Yeah, the former God of War himself. It would likely be a prequel, and the biggest part, it could actually explore multiple mythologies, not just Norse. We're talking potentially Mayan, Asian mythologies. That's a massive shift from the series and the tone so far, and this is just where it starts to get interesting. Because at first glance, people are going to hear Faye spinoff and think it's a smaller side story. But if you actually look at what we know about her, she's not a side character at all. She is a true main character. She's one of the most important figures in the entire modern God of War storyline, and we hardly know anything about her. She's a giant. She somehow knew Kratos better than anyone else ever did. She set the entire journey in motion, and on top of that, she seemed to know everything that was going to play out before it ever happened. She predicted the future, and that doesn't really happen by accident. So if the game is a prequel, which I assume it is, what you're really looking at is a story of how Faye became that person in the first place. I think that's where they can take it even further than people expect, because this might not be a contained story in one location at all. If the multiple mythology angle is real, which is being reported by MP First, by Insider Gaming, Faye could have been traveling long before she ever met Kratos. She could have been moving between different worlds, learning different forms of magic, encountering different gods, and building up knowledge that eventually explains how she was always one step ahead in the Norse saga. Now think about this. In the main games, I guess, spoiler alert, maybe a little bit, I don't know. Kratos is always the experienced one. He's the one who's been through everything, who understands the weight of gods in war. But in this case, that dynamic would flip completely. Faye might actually be the one who understands the bigger picture. She might be the one who's already seen what's out there beyond a single mythology, and that alone is going to change how we look at her character. And that's where Tyr comes into play, because if there's one character in the series that makes sense to tie into this, it's him. Tyr is already known for traveling between realms, studying different cultures, different gods, different ways of life. So if Faye is out there exploring, she's learning, she's moving between mythologies, well, Tyr being involved isn't really random. It would be essential, and that's what's being reported right now. He could be a playable protagonist. He could be guiding her, working with her, or even just crossing paths with her at key moments. But either way, that connection opens the door to something bigger than just one game. It actually starts to feel like they're building a connected world instead of just telling a contained story. And we've reported on this in the past, and we've always had that vibe of it's just a spinoff. It's going to be a smaller, more enclosed story. I don't think that's the case. I think we could be going into a potential parallel kind of arc here where we have two major side IPs all under the umbrella of God of War. I really feel that way if they do it right. So, I mean, when you get to the part everybody's thinking about, which if you're going to have a God of War game, where does Kratos fit into it? There's no way you tell Faye's story without bringing him in at some point, but the key is, how do you do it? Because if they handle it right, this is where it gets really exciting for me. I just played through the 2018 version on my Let's Play channel, and it's one of the best stories ever told. It really is. If they handle this right, this could end up being one of the most important moments in the entire franchise. Close your eyes and imagine this. You're playing the game as Faye, you're seeing her grow stronger, you're leveling up, you're seeing everything she's experienced, everything she's learned, everything she's become, and then late in the story, you cross paths with Kratos. Now, it's not the Kratos we know now, No, it's not the older, calmer version. He's not there yet. This is the version of Kratos closer to the end of his Greek saga. He's still angry, broken, carrying everything he's done, the weight of the world, and instead of it immediately turning into some big over-the-top fight, it's tense. It's not love at first sight. It's controlled because Faye isn't afraid of him at all. She understands what he is, maybe even better than he understands himself at that point. And that moment alone could carry the entire story because now you're seeing something we've never actually experienced. You're seeing why she chose him, why she believed there was something more there, why she trusted him to raise their son. And they could push it further. There could be a moment where you have to fight Kratos. There should be a moment where Faye has to fight Kratos. Not a final boss, not anything like that, but definitely a clash of two completely different approaches. Kratos, raw, uncontrolled rage at that point, and Faye, calculated, experienced, and precise. It doesn't even have to end with a clear winner. It could end with understanding, which honestly would hit harder than another boss fight. I think that is the kind of moment that people would remember. I mean, at that point, we're not in spin-off territory anymore. This is filling one of the biggest gaps and missing pieces in the entire God of War story. Faye has always felt like the huge gap. You know she matters, you know she's super important, but you never got to experience her journey or dive into her lore. This game it could do all that. It also sets up the future in a really, really smart way. If Faye has already been traveling between mythologies, then the next step for the series would not feel forced if Kratos does end up in Egypt. Doesn't feel like they're jumping somewhere random. It's all going to feel connected. It feels like something that's already been built into the story because we experienced it with Faye and maybe Tyr. So whether the next mainline God of War game goes to Egypt, Japan, wherever, it's not going to feel like a reset. It's going to feel like a continuation, which is kind of what they did with God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. Yes, it was a reset, but it was also a continuation and references from the Greek mythology. Honestly, I think that's why this project exists. Because Kratos is, of course, iconic. You can't have God of War without him, but you also don't want to run him into the ground. You don't want every single game to feel the same, so instead, you expand the world around him. You build up other characters, you deepen the lore, and then when he does return in a major way, it actually means something. And I'll just say it. If this is real, I am all in. Like I said, when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, yeah, spin-off game, Faye, whatever. But now that we're getting reporting and leaks coming in, this could be it. It's not another sequel. This is them taking a risk in a way that actually makes sense to me. And if they nail the first meeting between Faye and Kratos, that alone could end up being one of the most important scenes in the entire God of War franchise. And there's a lot of important scenes in the God of War franchise. So let me know what you guys think. Do you actually want a God of War game without Kratos as the main character? Even if it expands the story, tells us the story of Faye, tells us how they met, or do you think it's too big of a risk? You guys know where I stand on all this. It's the same with movies. I mean, if they're going to make it, I'm going to digest it. And if I'm a fan of that universe, I'm going to see what it's about. If I don't like it, I put it down and never play it again or watch it again. But give me all you can. And this one, if done right, I think this one could be something absolutely just game-changing. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you soon.